All right, everybody. We've got another very special guest for you all. Everybody, please welcome back to the show, Caleb Palmquist. Welcome, Caleb.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, yeah. Glad you could be back and that I could be here for this. I know Chris and I have enjoyed your other projects in the past, the vampire detective projects. I love the one in space. I'm a big sci-fi guy, so that was a lot of fun.
I've got
And now,
unicorns sitting by my bed too. I haven't cracked it yet, though. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
um, and I guess Chris and I were kind of talking about this too. This new book that's on Kickstarter right now. We're going to talk about Dragon Grit. It's kind of a little bit of a turn away from your norm, I would say, or I guess as far as like the vampire stories and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to talk about it a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Dragon Grit. It's a fantasy western. And I wrote it actually with my wife. It's the first time we're co-writing something together. She's a
Cool.
novelist,
Oh, nice.
and um, it's kind of based on like my favorite genre to like of movies and books is westerns.
Mm-hmm.
And she really likes fantasy, especially dragons, and so we kind of wanted to do something that merged the two things that we really liked. And I would say, yeah, it's a little bit of a departure from what usually do, although I've been doing a lot of fantasy lately.
Right.
I would say that this is, even though it's got a dragon, it's relatively light fantasy. I would say, like in terms of themes, it's way more Western than it is fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no wizards in this world. There's no goblins. It just imagine that you had the Wild West and you took out the horses and you put in dragons. uh, and so that's kind of what it is.
So you arguably took the best part of fantasy and just said, "Let's put it in Western."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody loves
Yeah.
dragons.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always feel bad when a horse dies in a western, but I don't know how bad I would feel if like a menacing dragon dies. I don't know. It depends on how attached I get to that creature. But
I know. I heard people
Yeah.
got really attached to that. What's that dragon movie where they're flying around? How to Train Dragon.
Yep.
oh yeah,
I heard people got
yeah,
really attached to those dragons.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, if it's a Pixar style dragon, then I'd feel a little more bad. But um, I noticed that like in the art on your page and stuff like that for the project, the main character is kind of riding like a red dragon, and there's some other um, nice, yeah. Chris has got it pulled up right there. There's some other dragons, like she's fighting with someone else that's like riding a gray dragon. Is there is there anything you touched on with that in the story of like different species or different types, anything like that? Is there more to it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There are three dragons in the story that I would call main characters,
Hmm.
and two of them will meet in the first issue. The main thrust of the story is Vera. She's an ex outlaw, and she's kind of trying to go straight essentially, and she
Hmm.
agrees to take on a job. This young man inherits his father's estate, and he's kind of like been educated out east. He's like a city slicker, I guess is the right
Hmm.
term.
Yep.
And he inherited this dying mist dragon, who's been in his family for generations. And the dragon keeps wandering off, and he can't figure out why. And Vera immediately recognizes that this is a wild dragon who's trying to go back to her dragon graveyard.
Mm.
Like elephants go to an elephant graveyard, like they
Yep.
remember where they're,
Oh
and
yeah.
and so he hires her to escort him across the wilderness because they have to basically follow the dragon because they don't know where the graveyard is.
Hmm.
Um, and all the while she's being pursued by an old rival of hers named Jack, who leads a gang. But so her dragon is a fire dragon, and then her rival Jack, he's got a dragon named Ruin, who is also a fire dragon, and then the dying dragon um, is a mist dragon.
Oh, cool.
Um, and yeah, it's like an exceptionally rare type of dragon. And so there are different types of dragons in the story for
Hmm.
sure. And there's also something that we get into as the story goes on is like horses. There's like wild dragons and domesticated dragons, and they're
Oh, okay.
almost as different as like wolves and dogs.
Mhm.
Where like if you have a dragon that's been bred over many generations, it has certain domestic traits,
Mhm.
whereas a wild horse, I mean, sort of like uh, to bring up an animated example. My wife really likes the movie Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. You guys seen
Mhm.
that movie?
Yep. Yep.
Matt Damon is the horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot Matt Damon
I
was the
forgot.
horse.
It's a great movie though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like a wild horse who can't be
Right.
tamed, right? And so
Yeah.
there's some elements of that, and so it that definitely is a factor. And the dragons that she's fighting in this first scene in the preview are really like your run of the mill, like outlaw dragons, that are like they've been bred, and they're not like particularly special.
Mhm.
And if you notice in the preview, they don't breathe fire. And so while while two of the main dragons are fire dragons, it's like that's like something of an exceptional thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's really cool, and the art is pretty fantastic too. Of like the showing off some of the like the air battling between the gunslinging on dragons in the air has got to be. It's a lot of fun.
Kay Woolheiser is the artist of this book, and she worked with me last year on a different book called The Knight and the Lion.
Mhm.
That was the first book we worked on together, which was really great. And then yeah, she does great with action scenes, and I think she and I work together really well because I really like to. I'm a big fan of decompressed storytelling,
Mhm.
and I like to let all the actions have time to breathe. And so I was actually worried about writing this fight scene, this like aerial fight scene. It's like a dog fight, and
Mhm.
I think she really nailed it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and my favorite part of any Western are like the classic guns. And my absolute favorite is the lever action rifle that you have here.
yeah.
Did you I'm sure, like you said, you're a big fan of Westerns, so you had an idea of all the different weapons you wanted to use. But was there a lot of thought put into like trying to connect the weapons with the characters and what that means about them, or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say so. It's funny. We actually, my wife and I had a lot of debates about what type of guns the characters would have, and
Mhm.
like what, like, where exactly is this in like history? Even though obviously it's like it's a fantasy world.
Yeah. Right.
Love that.
It actually took us a little bit of time to agree that any character might have a revolver that could shoot multiple times.
Mhm.
Because originally we had entertained the idea of everything being like gunpowder, like you had to load,
Oh wow.
like Civil War style.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
But I ultimately we decided not to go with that because it just felt like it was going to slow the action down too much.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think that Vera is like very much based on like a Clint Eastwood style character, like
Mhm.
doesn't talk a lot, there's no bullshit. It's like just like really and so I had this vision early on of her pulling out a rifle and just being like, and it's just like this guy in the preview, it's not the dragon shooting fire that makes him stop. It's her holding this rifle and being like,
Right.
you make a move, your move, punk.
Yeah.
I wanted to have her say punk in it,
Yeah.
and my wife
Yeah.
was like, "No, we can't
No,
do
you
that."
can't do that. That's where she drew
She
the line.
vetoed
No.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
So
I-
if you guys had all these debates about the timeline and everything, which I love, that's amazing. But at any point did her, or both of you, like start to like veer into the, okay, well, it takes place in this time. So how does dragons in the Old West affect the future of America's growth over time? And where are we today now that dragons are
that are part of our lifestyle. Yeah.
You know,
And when do I get that comic?
Yeah.
I will say that we have a plan. We have actually a 10-issue plan for this comic.
Cool.
And if it's very successful, we have talked about a sequel comic that would be like set sometime in the future where we would see some of that stuff. But you know, that's we've like had a few brainstorms, but you know, that's if we can make 10 issues of this comic, that will have been a incredible success. So, you know, it's like I don't know if you guys are Brandon Sanderson fans, but like the first Mistborn trilogy, and then he has like this big time jump, and then it's like in the old Wild West, and then presumably at some point he will have another time jump and have it whatever industrial era or whatever he's going to do. And Avatar: The Last Airbender did a similar thing to what you're talking about, and so I think that's always something I'm interested in. But you know, I'm still, even though I've been writing comics for 8 years, I'm still relatively new. I mean, you know, I haven't gotten to the point where I feel like a series is established enough that I could have like a giant time jump like that. I have recently completed. I have 3 trade paperbacks now, which feels like a huge career milestone for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. Yeah, congrats on that. And I would say, yeah, I mean, because like you've been writing for 8 years, but like you said, making a time jump like that and making sure all the pieces fit,
right?
Of like, okay, how would this realistically affect everything? And I don't think we really see it in the art at all. But like, I'd have to think that if there exists a mode of transportation like dragons, where does the railroad fit in this?
The railroad is actually part of the story. Is actually an important part of the story.
Cool. Yeah, I was wondering that. I'm like, I don't see any trades or trade heists going on.
There is Vera. So her job at the beginning of the comic is that she's delivering mail on star routes, which is a real historical thing that was kind of like the Pony Express, but it's like dangerous, like mail deliveries that other people weren't willing to take on. You kind of had to be a real badass to take them on, and then but they basically went obsolete with the introduction of the railroad, because once you get railroad lines across the country, then why do you need to pay someone exorbitant fees to, you know, ride a horse? And so that's kind of what happens to her, because even though you got dragons, you still got to think like a train that can deliver a ton of stuff at once that's armored is still going to be more efficient. And so that's kind of where she starts to be like, okay, I need to look for other work. What other kind of things can I do without going back to a life of crime, basically?
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about the rewards you have for the backing here.
Sure.
We have, it's 3 different, or no, two different covers and a print, right?
Yeah, so we have 2 different covers, and the way that we're doing it on this campaign is that the regular cover you can get in our sort of standard edition, but then there's a collector's cover which has like a foil stamped logo and like numbering on it, and we're only going to print enough of those like after the backer kit surveys go out, and if anyone adds extra copies on at that point, we'll send in our print order, and we're only going to order enough to fill the campaign. And the same with the variant cover, which will also have that collector's edition treatment where it's got the foil logo and the numbering on it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's something I'm trying out, because I like something I realized a while back, and I did this with my last unicorn campaign as well, is that like people do pay a premium price on Kickstarter, and you're part of like the creation of something. And so I think being able to offer exclusive rewards, like where I still want everyone to be able to access the stories later on, if they want to, but I really want to be able to reward the backers who are getting in as it's coming out, as it's being made, that you have this cool premium version of the comic that nobody else will be able to get.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. I'm a sucker for foil treatment stuff too.
Yeah, Mike collects comics, so he likes shiny things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the shinier the better. That's pretty cool. And I noticed here, I don't know if it's still available because the Kickstarter is live, everybody, but there's some original pencils, original inks, so by the artists here.
Yeah, so the variant cover is drawn by David Hahn, Carl Kiesel, and Ryan Cody, who are really awesome. They've been working in comics a long time, and also they are the team behind Impossible Jones, which is a very successful Kickstarter comic.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
The inks, the original inks by Carl have already sold, but as of this recording, the pencils have not sold yet. So yeah,
Cool.
that's if you're into original art. That's available. I always like to do that when I can. And those guys do everything traditionally. More and more of the artists that I work with are purely digital artists.
Yep.
And so it's not always something I'm able to offer. But when I can, I like to do that.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, I understand why people are going digital, but it's such a shame that we don't have more physical artists now and having all that, especially for the artists. Like, that's another avenue for them to make money down the line, is if they can sell the original art.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
Yeah, I always love hanging up original art and stuff like that. I mean, besides selling their prints and that, but and you have some stretch goals too that we haven't hit yet. One of them, we're probably almost at the first stretch goal, which is an audio commentary you're looking at doing for the project.
Yeah. This is something I like to do because it's I feel like it's a real value add, but stretch goals are hard because a lot of times they cost extra money.
Right.
And so this is something I've been doing as my first stretch goal for a lot of projects. The one that I'm definitely going to hit this because, so basically my wife and I, we wrote the comic together, and we'll get on and essentially record like a 30-minute podcast almost. That's like just talking about how we collaborated and also what our plans are for the future of the book. And I know a lot of people, like that. And what I like about that too is that it can go out to digital and physical backers. It goes out to everybody.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times the stretch goals, I like to sort of go back, interchange them. Like this stretch goal will go out to physical backers, and then this one will go out to everybody. Even though if I do a trading card or whatever, I can send that like digital file to people, but that's of course not the same.
Right. No, it's cool.
Yeah. That's like the one I've been seeing a lot recently. I really like is the phone and desktop wallpapers.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is a really cool one I've seen quite a bit. Where it's like, yeah, that's nice because then, like you said, digital people can get something for their.
Yeah, no, that's a cool idea. And the trading card one at 12,000 is another cool idea that you have on there.
Yeah, I have quite a collection now of trading cards. Early on, I used to always automatically include a trading card like as an add-on with every campaign, and I've been like moving more toward putting those as stretch goals. And because I think people like them, but they don't always like to spend extra money for them. And but if it's like a free bonus, then it's like really cool. Like everyone always likes that. And so a trading card, and hopefully as we go throughout the series, there'll be a collection of trading cards of all the characters. I mean, over on my shelf over there, I've got probably like 27, 28 trading cards of all the different characters from all of my different books, which is cool.
Awesome.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
What Mike wants to know is, are they Magic the Gathering legal?
Or... Yeah. Using as proxies or something.
Yeah.
When are you making a trading card game based on your card?
That's so funny because we talked a little bit before we started recording about card games, and one thing I would love to do someday is actually make a trading card game.
That'd be so fun.
Whether or not that would be based on like one of the comics I wrote or it'd be something else, I don't know, but it's just very daunting. Like at this point, comics are like, I know how to do it. I know how to write them and create them and market them. But like a card game, that's like
where do you even daunting. Start? Yeah.
I'm not going to give it out on air, but I've had this idea for one for a while. And just the idea of sitting down and making it is like, I don't have time for it, but I don't want to give up the idea because I think it's really good.
Yeah. You should do it one day, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, Caleb. I think Dragons and Westerns is a good place to start for a trading card game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can get vampires involved. I don't know, so that'll work too. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
definitely something that hopefully at some point, I don't know if it'll
Yeah.
be next year or 10 years from now, but at some point, hopefully somebody will see a card game from me. We'll see.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, so I mean, you've hit your goal. You've doubled your goal now of $3,500. You're at almost 350 backers. We still have about a month to go as this episode drops. Everybody, is there anything else you want to like share or just mention, about it for people who are looking to back the book?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this is a brand new series. Everyone on every Kickstarter says this is a great jumping on point.
Mhm.
But I mean, this truly is because it's the first issue of a new
Right.
series.
Right.
Next, like in a month and a half, I'll be launching another book that is absolutely not the first issue. That's like it's a crossover, and I counted it up. It's like the 12th issue if you count all the
Oh, wow.
series that are going into the
Yeah.
crossover.
Yeah.
But this one is truly a number one, and it's, if you like Westerns and you like dragons, I hope you'll check it out, because I also think it's one of the best things I've ever written. I say that a lot, but I will say that collaborating with my wife, who is like a very talented novelist, I think has really taken it to the next level. There's definitely, things that you have to do when you're collaborating that you don't do on your own. I mean, of course, I have beta readers and editors and people who
Right.
help me out, but when I'm writing my own thing, if I have a beta reader or an editor say, I don't think you should do this, I can be like, well, screw you, I'm going to do it anyway. What I want to do.
Right. When you're co-writing, it's a little different, right? Yeah. Yeah.
But so I think it really elevated, and I think it's great. So yeah, it's
Awesome.
and if you want to find it really easy, obviously you can search on Kickstarter, but you can also go to dragongrit.com.
Oh, great.
And I also wanted to say before we say our goodbyes, to everyone out there that does back it, not only do you have this great jumping on point that Caleb just mentioned, but you can also add on the old books. And Mike and I are both big fans of Vampire Detective in Space.
Yep.
I mean, it's right there in the name, everybody.
Yeah, come on. What else
And
do you
even though I joked about not cracking Unicorn yet, I did buy, I think Scout published the first issue.
Scout published the first issue, and then I published the first volume. So yeah, you can, all those comics are on there, and all those are complete stories. Modern Mythology is an anthology that I edited, so it's like a bunch, like 17 different stories, and only one of them is written by me, but I think it's pretty cool. And then so that's my library right there.
Nice.
It's all available.
So I was gonna say that I did read the first issue of Unicorn. I did really like it, so I can
thank you.
I can say at least the first issue is really good, everybody.
There you go.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. So I mean, anything else for our listeners, our viewers? You would just direct them to the website, dragongrit.com, you said? And
yeah, dragongrit.com.
Yeah, and if they want to follow you and like all the stuff you're putting out there.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Caleb Palmquist, but if you really want to keep up with what I'm doing, if you go to calebquist.com, there's a link to sign up for my newsletter. And because I often forget that things like Twitter and Instagram exist, but I send out an email every week.
Awesome.
With spoilers, a look at what I'm doing, and also on my newsletter you can get free stuff. People who are on my newsletter get free stickers and stuff.
Oh, cool.
When they back my comics. Yep.
That's awesome. All right, sign me up.
And to everybody out there watching or listening, as always, look at the show notes. I'll have these links in there so you can just click on them. You don't have to type anything. You just got one click and you're there. So make sure you do that and check out the book and all of Caleb's work, because it's all good stuff. Caleb, thanks so much for stopping by, chatting with us for a minute, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah,
thanks. Thank you.